Hi, my name is Taylor Orzo, and my presentation will be on the phylum Annelida, and um, the organism we will be focusing on will be segmented worms, particularly the earthworm, because there is many species and it'd be hard to concentrate on all of them. So we're going to concentrate on earthworms. And the classification for earthworms is the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Annelida, the family Acanthrodrillidae, and the class Clitellata, and the genus Lubricina. And this information is from Follis 2019. And although this is not an earthworm, it's just an example of another species of worm that's also in this phylum. So the earthworm and other segmented worms' habitat, they like to burrow into holes, and they need to be in a moist environment. So even if it's in water, like marine or freshwater areas, they really like. And they need to be on damp land because they do not have a waterproof exoskeleton. And like I said, marine and freshwater is what they prefer. Yeah, and when they burrow into these holes in the damp land, that helps circulate the soil, and down underground where they are is where their diet is, their prey, which we will get to later when we talk about their nutrient intake. And this information is from Remmel and Wildlife Journal Junior. So their nutrition, diet, and digestion. So their digestion starts at their mouth and goes through their whole entire body. From each segment, there's like different organs in each segment of the worm. And they eat organic matter. So dead plants, dead animals, and eating the organic matter helps decomposition. And they also tend to eat soil and pebbles and other fragments as they're consuming the organic matter. And their waste, actually, it's called casts, and it's rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, and that helps plants grow because of nitrogen fixation. So when they produce the nitrogen, it helps, like I said, with nitrogen fixation, meaning the plants and animals need nitrogen to turn into NH3 so they can use the nitrogen to make amino acids and DNA. So they help with that. Now for their reproduction, some will produce gonochoristically, which is just they have one of the two sexes, so just like normal reproduction. And then others are hermaphroditic, which means they're hermaphrodites, and they have both male and female parts, but they cannot fertilize their eggs with their own sperm, so they still do have to mate, but they do have both male and female genitalia. So their adaptations, this information comes from my source from 2012. Now, they have two sets of muscles, earthworms do, because one set of muscles expands their body, so that's the movement when they expand and get longer, and then the other contracts, so this is all a part of movement. And as we move on with their adaptations, you'll find that a lot of the adaptations are for their movement. So their shape, they have no antennas, no legs, no arms, and that is so they can burrow into very, very narrow holes. And setae is something that the worms have. They're tiny, tiny hairs that help them move and grip the surfaces as they're moving along, chug along. And then the last thing actually does not have to do with movement, but it's more so on how they eat. So the earthworms, for their pharynx, which I believe is, yes, right here, they will push their pharynx out to grasp and pull back that organic matter we were talking about earlier. And once that's back in their throat, they'll secrete saliva to moisten their food to help it digest better. But the whole pharynx comes out to get the food. So their ecological significance comes from the Wildlife Journal Junior. They, like I said earlier, eat the organic matter and help with decomposition, helps plants grow, and their casts are rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, and they loosen the soil as they move through it, making their little canals, which allows air to circulate throughout the soil. They are also a food source to birds, and if they live in marine and freshwater, they're a food source to fish as well. So they help on the food chain. And then human impact. So I found some interesting information from Wright et al. On his journal that said there are 4.5 trillion cigarettes littered into marine environments, which I said, like, they live in marine environments. So specifically here, it's ragworms that they were studying, and the ragworms that were exposed to the nicotine burrowed longer and had DNA damage. And then another interesting article I found was by Sandhu et al. And they found that they studied worms that were well-fed, mediocrely well-fed, and starving. The starving worms tended to take more risks, like coming up to the surface in broad daylight to find food, which is risky because birds and other animals can see them easier for prey. So this led me to think, okay, well, when we build buildings and new malls and whatnot, these animals lose their homes. So then they're willing to take more risks to find food, and which include getting eaten or killed. And then our litter as well affects them if they eat it or if it's in their way. Just trashing their home is our impact. These are my references. Thank you very much.